Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hippie Hyena. Today we'll be looking at far right-wing demagogue and fake journalist Dim Tool. But before we get into that, I'd just like to say that I've noticed that I have 10 subscribers this morning, which I'm very happy about. It might not seem like a lot, but we've all got to start somewhere, haven't we? So if you're a subscriber and you'd like to see me react to a particular video you've seen that you think is ripe for the hippie hyena treatment, then don't hesitate to send it to me. Just comment in the section below. And if you're not subscribed yet and you're watching this, why not subscribe? It's free. It's free videos for you. What have you got to lose? So Tim Pool here is about to explain his central thesis statement that our generation, and I don't know really what he means by our, because he's dressed like a 90s dad's idea of what young people dress like, covering his clearly bald head with that beanie. But anyway, I won't bald shame him too much. That's your lot for this video. What we're looking at here is him explaining his central notion, philosophy, if you will, that this generation, whatever that means, has failed. This generation has failed. Now, to me, I'd be more inclined to think that the previous generations have failed the current generation. I mean, that seems like a more accurate reading of events, that their greed and gluttony and complete unwillingness to consider the ramifications of their 20-year party and how much that would affect the environment and the financial situation of future generations, that's probably more likely to be the case. And when I look at elections and I see that in recent years they've tended to go the wrong way, and you look at the demographics of why, and it tends to be the over 50 who are f***ing it up for everyone else and not even letting us do anything about it to try and fix the issues that the previous generations have done. But anyway, according to Tim Pool, this current generation, which has the widest gap between income and expenditure for generations, he's going to explain exactly what this generation with few job prospects, with no chance of owning property, with impending ecological destruction hanging over our heads like a sword of Damocles, he's going to explain to us exactly why we are the ones who failed. And you know, despite the fact that he's a raving reactionary nutjob, part of me hopes that his perspective will be a little more nuanced than just repeating the same old get off my lawn, grandpa wishing that kids could be put through another war kind of nonsense take. And that maybe he's actually going to say something a little bit more complex and a bit more insightful than that.
Every generation faces some kind of unique challenge. And I believe our greatest challenge is our own success.
Oh dear.
With our wealth and automation, we've gotten rid of risk and responsibility. On one side of the culture war, you have parents who are bulldozing all obstacles away from their children. So these young people grow up without actually facing any challenges.
And just like that, he hand waves away all of the actual facts of the situation without facing any challenges. Is he completely insane? Well, yes. But the point is that the main agenda, in reality, of most right-wing pundits is to try and justify the status quo. All of the actual challenges that the current generation faces are things that people like Tim Pool have absolutely no interest in improving. In fact, they'd rather they either stayed the same or got worse. Because all of those challenges are created through the actions of untethered, ultra-rich people. The sort of people who pay to promote people like Tim Pool. The sort of people that he's directly reliant on for his income. So him and people like him are going to say anything they can to try and coddle those rich elites who don't want any kind of muzzle on their economic violence and plundering of the people. So they can't ever admit that those problems exist. And so what you'll often find is they spend a lot of their time telling people who are suffering to shut up about it. That's what the whole sort of cancel culture nonsense is about. They're trying to tell people to shut up with their complaining. Well, the thing is, there's only one way that we're going to shut up about complaining about this, about systemic oppression of minorities, about sexism, about transphobia, about grueling economic inequality, about wage slavery, about not being able to keep what you earn, about our money being extracted to line the pockets of ultra-rich, worthless parasites, about people dying on the streets because they don't have any kind of support structure because they don't have the money to afford operations and medical procedures that would keep them alive. And whilst that's happening, people in gaudy, gilded palaces stuffing their faces with their culturally bankrupt, morally bankrupt maintenance of their miserable lives. When that comes to an end, then we'll stop complaining, Tim. Because it's not us who've been coddled. It's the people who are paying your wages.
When they become adults, they're too fragile to actually live in the real world, and thus they demand government intervention. They want safe spaces where they can be safe from bad opinions. They think criticism is harassment.
This is unbelievable levels of projection, on a scale we've barely ever seen. In fact, it's almost impressive. Literally calling out cancel culture, i.e. calling out people criticising people like him, and then in the next sentence saying that they want the safe space? No, Tim, you guys want the safe space. You literally are asking for it when you're asking for cancel culture to stop. You're literally asking for it when you're asking to not have gay people included in children's cartoons. You're literally asking for it when you're asking for conservative opinions to be respected in educational settings. You're literally asking for it at every step of the way. It's you guys that want the safe space. You guys. And the fact that you ever try and say that the right side of this cultural war wants safe space is just so maddeningly and totally insane. Your side and the disgusting rich elites that you simp for have treated this entire planet like it was their safe space for generations, and you're finally having to face the fact that those you've tried to grind under your boots are not going to smile about it, and you call us coddled. Unbelievable.
On the other side, you see a loss of responsibility. We have machines taking over, we have an abundance of food, and now we have young people who don't know what they're doing with their lives. They feel bored, disaffected, or depressed. Many just sit around playing video games all day.
He's not wrong, but why? Why is it that people sit around playing video games all day? Is it because they've failed? No, I'd argue that it's because the system we live in has failed them. That the system we live in has failed to give them any sense of purpose. It's stewed them in Marxist alienation, by which I mean they're doing thankless tasks, working for morons they don't respect, creating nothing. That's their options. That's their options in the workplace. A 9 till 5 job that makes you work longer than that, but pays you no more, that doesn't pay you enough to support a family, a system that's systematically attempted to destroy our societal bonds, our solidarity with each other, and replace that with pointless baubles, and they attempt to use marketing to paper over those cracks, while the hollowness slowly drains our motivation. And what kind of battles can we fight that we can win? There's no just war anymore. Our enemies are here, above us, in our capitalist hierarchy, and even those that think they're happy within this pyramid scheme can feel on some level there's something missing, something wrong, and in a sense, that's who Tim Pool is attempting to appeal to, because he, like most of these people, realised that there is a hollowness, a brokenness to our society. But what he's attempting to do is to leverage that to make things worse, not better, to make us more alienated, to take any reins off capitalism so it can turn us fully into slaves.
And this is why I see someone like Jordan Peterson becoming so prominent. He speaks to young people when he says, you need some responsibility in your life. You need a mission and something to do.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, that's his solution to this. I mean, in a sense, Jordan Peterson isn't wrong when he says we need a mission, we need something to do, we need a sense of purpose. That's, of course, absolutely true. But what Jordan Peterson tries to do, and Tim Pool as well, is to use this piece of pretty good advice as a kind of trap. Because what they're essentially saying is they're saying to wage slaves that what they really need is in some way to find a sense of purpose in their wage slavery, to find a sense of purpose in maintaining the system that has beat them down. Whereas I say they should acquire a sense of purpose in trying to figure out a way of destroying the system that keeps us down. Now, how's that for a sense of purpose? Because anything else is like trying to carry water in a sieve. It's like trying to put out a fire in a burning house by vacuuming the floor. Because if we're not idiots, anything else will leave us feeling hollow and essentially unsatisfied because we haven't addressed the central problem. And just how convenient would it be for those at the top of the hierarchy if they could convince those under their boot that the absolute best thing for them to do to feel more satisfied with their position is to polish the boot on their neck. That's what Jordan Peterson and Tim Pool are selling.